I read mostly books from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So when I was suggested A Psalm for the Wild Built, written in 2021 by Becky Chambers, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm missing something with the new sci-fi. And I don't think I am. Or at least not with this one. It felt very much for one type of person, and that person is not me. This book, which is the first in the Monk and Robot series, is like the LeBron James or Leo Messi of casual writer books. Like, it's like if you got a suburban book club together and you had every person in it write one book, this would be the best out of the books that they wrote. In general, I found it to lack the tact and wisdom of most of the New Age science fiction books, but I do think this book would be quite enjoyable for some people, and indeed has some quite unique and redeeming moments. Let's talk about it. I'm going to try something a little bit different with this review, and I'm going to start with some general guidelines on who I think this book is for. Read this book if you want some nature-based science fiction and or you want something short and chill. Do not read this book if you're looking for something with elegant polish and theme work and/or you like to critically analyze books and work to find their themes. Oh God, it is so hot up here. And my left leg is falling asleep. So what happens in this book? It takes place on the planet of Panga, where 50% of the world is left for humans and 50% is left completely to the wild. The important thing to know about the history of Panga is that for many years, robots were used as labor for humans until a few hundred years ago, the robots left and went into the wild. The secession was amicable, and the humans even offered them to live amongst them as equal sentient beings, but the robots refused, saying that they wanted to develop a life for themselves in nature, untouched by humans. All right, so let's go back to the present where we meet a person called Dex, who, questioning their purpose in life, decides to drop everything and become a tea server. Tea servers are kind of like stereotypical bartenders in our world. People come up to them with anxieties and thoughts and discuss them over a drink. Dex travels with their wagon, selling tea as they go, until they stumble upon a robot, the first robot a human has seen since the robots left. The robot has been sent benevolently with the purpose of seeing how the humans are faring without the robots. They strike up an immediate friendship and decide to trek through the forest together, having some important conversations about life on their journey. There are so many mosquitoes back here. If you're looking for a chill book, this one might be for you. The book actually starts off with the dedication for, quote, anyone who needs a break, which I totally love. It really never gets very high stress, and it moves very quickly. It's only 150 pages about, so it's really more of a novella. The vibe is extremely chill, the prose is very plain, and the book is very simple. All things that to some might be boring and to others might be exactly what they're looking for. I'm going to lump in with this point some of the straightforward themes of the novel because a lot of them just whittle down to the message of chill out. Dex's main issue is that they don't feel a sense of purpose, and this juxtaposes with the robot, of whom find their search for greater meaning in life to be completely misguided. The robot points out that, ironically, the humans respect their robots for going off and finding their own way to live simply in nature, yet they hold themselves to a completely different standard. I'm getting sweat all over my Kindle. Quote, why do you insist on having a purpose for yourself? One which you are desperate to find and miserable without. If you understand that robots lack a purpose, our refusal of your purpose is the crowning mark of our intellectual maturity, why do you put so much energy into seeking the opposite? Quote, you are allowed to just live. That is all most animals do. During their travels, it becomes clear to the reader, both through the conversation of our main characters and through what's going on around them, that, quote, wilderness is the natural state of things and will exist before and after us. It's really a pretty humbling message. If you like cute animal and plant stuff, you'd probably like this book. Like, if you have houseplants, I bet you'll like this book. There's a lot of care put into describing a world very in touch with nature, like everything from cool modern towns built in the trees to abandoned buildings retaken by nature. The way it's described in the book is solar punk, which was a new word to me. The way you can think of it is like if cyberpunk is a futuristic society where society has been dominated by technology and computer tech, solar punk is the futuristic society where society is dominated by nature and sustainability. There is a theme of the circle of life and the superiority of nature. And this goes beyond just the structures in Chambers' world. There is this overwhelming theme of the healing power of nature, most notably through its purpose for Dex as they trek through the forest to question their own purpose. The book honestly did some stuff that I had never seen in science fiction before. I loved how the robots were kind of like the ultimate antithesis of what robots robots usually are in science fiction, the robots in this book ironically live extremely in touch with nature. Another very unique thing about this book is that it's super jarring, in a good way, because I've never read a science fiction book that has put so much emphasis on nature. It's no secret that science fiction is very human-centered. It's largely about humans dominating and honestly overcoming nature through things like terraforming and faster-than-light travel and stuff like that. But A Psalm for the Wild-Built takes a nature-centered approach that views everything, including humanity, as a humble byproduct of nature. I don't like the writing. Much of the book is Dex's thoughts or the dialogue between Dex and the robot, and I just disliked the rapport. The writing just feels a bit dorky. I don't know if that's the word, but it feels a little bit goofy. The robot comes off as extremely childish, probably because Chambers is trying to make it sound like very naive to humanity, which is fine, but I don't know, it just was not for me. Some of the humor was just like swearing, which gave off like immature book talk vibes. Dex and the robot feel like coworkers that I would label as objectively fine people, but I just would be terrified to take lunch with them. Okay, but stuff like this is stuff that I can get over. Like, it doesn't ruin a book for me. The rest did, though. A lot of the big themes in the book I just didn't necessarily agree with, or I didn't find them to be that moving. I'll give some examples. A big theme in this book that I've already talked about is how nature is bigger than humans. So there was this big moment in the book where they're trekking through the forest and they can't go any deeper because nature was blocking the paths. But then they just step out of their vehicle and they just cross it on foot, so it's like that kind of just defeats the purpose. I mean, I guess they had to do it in the way that nature intended, but still, it was like, what? Okay, that's not that big of a deal, but I feel like a lot of the moments felt artificially deep or profound in a way that just did not land for me, and honestly took a lot away from the book. For example, the robot tries to befriend Dex after talking to them for literally like 5 minutes. And then the robot gets extremely offended when Dex doesn't immediately accept their request to be their friend. Dex is like naturally a bit wary to do so, as any human being would be. And then the robot makes some statement about like, oh, why can't people just be friends? And it's written like it's supposed to be this moment of profound insight, but it's just impractical in the moment. It's just not realistic, and it feels sometimes overly Pollyanna in this book to the point where it feels a little bit didactic. And then you have moments like this, quote, I think there's something beautiful about being lucky enough to witness a thing on its way out. And, quote, dying things are often beautiful. That was meant to be like some rather large, insightful moment in the book, but I just don't even know if I like agree with this, or certainly not as like some blanket statement. It feels a lot like this book is trying to be more profound than it deserves to be. I don't know, maybe like those quotes just totally spoke to you, and that's fine, right? But to me, I just didn't totally agree with it all, and it just didn't land too well. I don't know if I've ever thought that I wanted a book to be longer. Until this one. Usually there is so much bloat in books, but not this, because it felt so incredibly rushed. Like, for example, Dex starts off the book starting to become this tea server, and when Dex starts becoming a tea server, they get their first customer, and they're like stumbling over all their words, and they say all the wrong things. And I'm like, okay, Dex is going to struggle a bit, and we're going to see them work with their profession for a while and try to get better. But then literally the character development is Dex saying that they kind of work on themselves for a bit, and then literally a paragraph later, they're back to getting customers, and they're like super good. And this all takes place in like a small handful of paragraphs. Like, how am I actually supposed to care about this character development? All right, and then lastly, this book was so heavy-handed. It is so strikingly obvious how undignified the proposition of themes is compared to the elegant delivery of most of the stuff that I've read. And I think that a big part of this was just how short the book was. It needed some more time to just let the message percolate. But I can't even like use this as an excuse because the delivery is so blunt. The last like 2 chapters in this dialogue between Dex and the robot, they just go over and spell out every single theme of the book as if Chambers just wanted to like leave the spark notes at the end of this book. It's like she was scared of people not understanding the theme, so she just spelled it out for them. This sort of clumsy, blunt delivery makes it feel like a book that you'd find extremely awe-inspiring if you were like some naive 14-year-old who needed that sort of intellectual guidance. All right, so let's wrap this up. All of those negatives aside, I do think that the message was a good one. I think that just the way that it was presented and the dialogue medium through which it was said was really weak. One thing that I'd compare this book to is the Ishmael series by Daniel Quinn, which is some of my favorite books of all time. Those two present these themes of the humble existence of humanity in comparison to nature and how we've kind of bastardized how we're intended to live as humans, but it's done much more intellectually. The Ishmael series is super, super dry though, so I see the need to portray this type of message in a more adventure-based SF portrayal of the theme. Maybe this is a bit of a hasty conclusion given that I'm only 150 pages into this subgenre, but I don't think that solar punk is for me. If you gave me the choice between reading a nature-based book and a cyberpunk book set in some technological hellscape, I'd certainly choose the latter. But there is absolutely a place for more science fiction like this one with a lot of nature baked into it. And I'm glad to see that these books are being written, even if this one was not necessarily my cup of tea. Get it? Okay, thanks for watching.
Hey, listen!
Oh God. My leg has completely fallen asleep. Oh my, I can't feel this shit at all. It's purple. Hey, can you help me out? Can you help me out? Yeah, sure. Thanks.